Good morning, guys. It's TK here. I hope I find you well. So my best friend Shonipani Kalenta Zidumbu requested for this video, and then last time I did explained how everything goes on these type of calculations, where you're supposed to get all your dimensions, where you get everything. And then I told you everything that we are supposed to take off. We covered the excavations, the concrete bases, the concrete columns, the backfill, the water, and everything. So I'm gonna be looking at the calculations today. So without wasting much of your time, let's roll. Okay. So now, if you come and look at this, I focused on these being. If you look at this on this basis, if you look at this here, you would find out that you've got different base sizes. The size for this base is 1100 by 1100 millimeters. So which ones are the bases with this measurement here? The following bases: 1A, 2A, 3A, 1D, 2D, 3D. So these are the bases that I did, and then the bases with this size, I didn't do them. I guess that is gonna be homework for you guys. You're gonna do that for me. So yeah, let's go straight into it. So the first thing that we need to do we need to calculate our excavation depth. We need to know how deep are we digging into the ground. So look here, I did highlighted all the beams that I'm going to be looking at: 1A, 2A, 3A, 1D, 2D, and 3B. You can also see this, yeah, 1A, 1A, 1D, 2A, 3A. You can also see them here. So let's go get into the excavation. How do you get the excavation depth? Remember, guys, last time I did told you the excavation depth that we're talking about is this, from the natural ground level to underneath the blinding. Okay, so to get the distance from here to there, so the ground for level 1, they told you that it's 8 there. Now here, when you come to the schedule, you are given top of all bases at level 7, and then the ground floor is at floor level is 8. So now, where's the top of our bases? This is the top of our bases, right? So which means here it's 7 and there's 8. So for you to get this distance here, how do you get it? This is like grade 1 stuff. You subtract 8 minus 7 and then you get that. But now we have gotten the distance from there to there, which is 1 when you subtracted the 8 minus 7. But here we have got this distance here, the thickness of the base. Where do we get the thickness of the base? When you come here, I did told you, when you come to the schedule, you get the thickness. So the thickness here is 450. That was what we were looking at. So now you're gonna say that 1 plus that 450 plus that blinding there. This is the blinding, guys, the thick line, 100. You also add it to that. Okay, so now this is what I simply did to get the excavation depth: 8, and then I said minus 7, and then we got 1, and then I said add the thickness of the base, which is 0.5, and then I said add the blending, which is 0.10, and then the total depth that we're gonna get is 1.55, and then you're good. And then when you come and book it, you know your basis. The size of your basis is 1100 by 1100. So guys, when you book, the base is always the same. It's measured in cubic meters, so which means 1100 plus 1000 multiplied by 1100. But when you book it now, it's 1.10, because you're changing everything to meters. 1.10 by 1.10 by the depth that we just calculated. So the depth is the only thing that we needed to calculate, otherwise the size of the base was given already. So which gives us that 1.55 there. And now we multiply by 6. Why? Because it's 6 of these bases that we are dealing with. Where did I get that number? When you come here and then you try to look how many bases you got, you count these: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 bases, so you multiply by 6. And then after you do that, the excavation, you come and do the ROC. What is the ROC? The ROC is the risk of collapse. That is the shuttering that you put on the side of your trench. So remember, the ROC is always measured in square meters. So how do you do that? So we have to say, if you look at a hole, it's got 4 sides, right? So let's just say the depth of each side multiplied by the, let's say by the length, the depth by the length. So this is it. You get that 110 is the size. What is 110, guys? 110 is this size from there to there. This is 110. This is 1.10 multiplied by 1.10. You see? So now our ROC is only going to be on this side. So it's going to be 1.10 multiplied by the depth of that side. So which gives us 1.10 multiplied by the depth. What is the depth of the excavation? The depth of the excavation we already calculated, and then it was 1.55. So it's 1.10 multiplied by 1.55. And then how many sides does a hole have? Guys, this is, if it's not round, obviously it's gonna have 4 sides, because you can also look here. How many sides? This is the hole that we're talking about. How many sides does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has got 4 sides. So you multiply it by 4. When you multiply by 4, okay, how many holes do we have that has got 4 sides? We've got 6 of them, and then you also multiply by 6. And then when you put in the description, allow ROC to all sides of holes, as simple as that. And then the next thing that we're going to measure is the H2O, guys. This is like the simplest stuff that you can ever measure in quantity surveying. Water is always measured as an item, and the description is always keep excavation free of water that never changes. Let's not waste much time, and let's go to concrete. So on concrete, what do we need to measure, guys? We need to measure the base, we need to measure the column, we need to measure the blinding. So what is the base, guys? The base is this, it's made of concrete, we need to measure it. The blinding is also measured with concrete, we need to calculate. The column is also made of concrete, we need to calculate. The round beam is also made of concrete, we need to calculate. So we need to calculate everything that is got to do with concrete. Without wasting much of our time, let's go to the bases. So how do we measure the bases, guys? Remember, the size of our bases we were given already on the schedule is 1100 by 1100 millimeters, and the thickness of them is 450. So you just go and take those dimensions like that, and then you come and book it here. So the base is 1.10 by 1.10 by the thickness, which is 0.45. So the thickness is from there to there, that is 0.45. And now the 1.10, let me show you where you're going to get it. It's from this side is 1.10 and this side is 1.10, and then the depth of this, the thickness of that, is going to be 0.45. It's easy as that. And then how many bases do we have? You can always go back and check. This is what you calculate. You're calculating the basis of this side. So how many do you have? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you just come and book it there. You've got 6 of them. And then the description, guys, is very easy, because the description is always the same when it comes to concrete. This is the information that you're given, and then you're going to use that with the description. So when you come here, you have to say 20 MPa and 90 millimeter stone to all concrete bases, because that's what they say there. Reinforced concrete in bases, beams, and slabs, 20 MPa, 90 millimeter stone. So that's all your description that you need. To do the blinding, the blinding, guys, I told you that it's 100 millimeters. Okay, so the size of your blinding and the size of your concrete is always the same. So what changes here is the thickness. So your blinding is going to be 1.10 by 1.10 by 0.10, because it's very thick. And how many do we have? We have got 6 of them. Why? Because we also have 6 bases, so that's why we're calculating. The blinding there, it also shows 100 millimeters. How many? And then you count. This is what you're looking at. I don't want to waste much of your time. Let's go to the concrete, to the column. So we have done the bases, we have done the blinding. Now we want to do the column. So guys, the story is a little bit different on this one. It's a little bit different, but then it's nothing. So your column, we want to be focusing on this column 1A, 3A, 1D, and 3D. Ask me why I wanted to focus on these columns. because guys, if you come and look here at your beam, you would realize that it's got different. If you look at that section AA, which is that section AA, you would realize that the height of that beam plus the slab is 600. But now if you look at section BB, where is section of BB, you would realize that now the height of that is 700, which means the size of the column is going to differ, because if this brown beam and the base is 700 and if this is 600, then obviously the difference is going to be noticed on the columns. So that is nothing. Let's look at it and let's try to solve it. So the first thing that we do when we're looking for our columns, the first thing that we need to calculate is the height, guys. The height, that's the only thing that you need to calculate there. Take note, the size of your columns is already given. The size of your columns is already given as 300 by 300 millimeters. So all we need is the height. How do we get the height? So we want this here. This is the column that we need, right? And now on the top of the round beam, we get that it's 11.50, and then here we say the top of our concrete bases, they said it was 7, so here's 7 and then it's 11.50. so if you say 11.50 minus 7, you're going to get this distance here from there to there. But now for you to get this only, you need to subtract that height of the round beam. So from there to there, it's 600. Where am I getting that? I'm getting that on the section here. It shows that is 600, right? So now for us to get the distance from there to there, we need to say we subtract that 600. So come, let's look at this. So I did told you on top of the round beam is 11.50, and then I said we subtract the top of the concrete bases, which is 7, and then I got this 4.50. I had to deduct the height of the beam. Where's the height of the beam? It's 600 here, and then I have to say minus 0.60, and then what was my answer? 3.90. So that was that. Now when I book it, it's 0.30 by 0.30 by 3.90, the total height. So from there to there, guys, what this simply shows is that it's 3.90. and then how many of those do I have? We've got, remember, these bases, these columns that I'm talking about, these are the ones that are outside. If that are outside, like on the edges of the round beam. So how many are they? That is 4, and then you book it as 4. And then when you come to formwork, you want to put formwork. Formwork, guys, is measured in square meters. So what do you do with formwork? Formwork is very easy. The size of your formwork is equal to the size of your column. So the size of your column is 300. It's 300 by 300 millimeters. So what do you do is, you know that a column has got 4 sides, right? And each side is 300. So if you say 4 times 300, you're going to get that 1200, right? And then you multiply by the total height of your column. So it's going to be that 1.20 by 3.90. and then how many columns do we have? Remember, I'm focusing on these ones. We've got 6 columns. So now you're gonna book that as 6. Now let's go to the backfill. The backfill, what is the backfill? So the backfill is everything that is being added back, right? So the backfill is going to be that 1.1 by 1 by 1.1 by 1. So what is it that we are backfilling? It's this space here. We want to put back sand on this space, right? So we are going to be, it's going to be 1.1 by 1.1. Sorry. It was supposed to be 1.1 there. 1.1 by 1.1 by 1. Remember the distance from there to there, it's 1, right? So now that 1.1 by 1.1 by 1 the height. That's everything that we need to backfill. But remember, when I said that 1.1, I didn't deduct this. We still have to deduct the column because it's sitting in the middle of that 1.1. So now, what do you do? You come and deduct the concrete column as before. What is the size of our concrete column? Is 0.30 by 0.30. But now the height changes since we are only focusing on the section that is under the ground. So it becomes 1. And now how many of that do we have? We've got 6. And then you also have to say deduct concrete columns as before and EO for cutaway. Why EO for cutaway? Because this section that you've built in, the sand that you put in there, you need to throw it away. So that is what you're gonna say extra over for cutaway, so that you won't have to calculate it again. Now when you calculate the cutaway, we have cutaway for the concrete base and for the blinding. So the cutaway is the size of your concrete base, because the size of your concrete base is everything that you're gonna take out. So it's 1.1 by 1.10 by 1.10 by 0.45, and then you multiply by 6. Why? Because it's 6 bases that we are focusing on. Remember, I told you that I'm focusing on these bases. These bases, yeah. Okay, now without wasting much time, let's go to the round beam. The round beam, it's easy. It's just like a different story. The round beam, the first thing that you have to do is you have to calculate the center line. So how do you get the center line? The same way you get your foundation center line. So here we are given the length of 15,000 and here we are given the width of 7,000. So how do you get the center line? Guys, you all know how we get the center line. It's length 15,000 plus the width 7,000, and then you multiply by 2 to get the perimeter, which will give us that 44,000, right? So the dimensions are from outside to outside. What do we need to do? We need to deduct 4 times the thickness of that section here. So 4 times 280. So the thickness there is 280. Here it even shows you also that it's 280. So now if you say 4 times 280, you get 1120, and then you deduct that, and then you get your center line. Now how do you book that? The way you book that is very easy. Remember, here you can use your section. So when you book that, it's first the center line, right? The center line, and then you say the width there, which is 280, and then the height there, which is 400. So everything that I'm talking about, guys, is here. You see, this is how you book the round beam. Is that 280 there, right? Multiplied by that 400, multiplied by the center line. So this is how it is. If you look at it, yeah, and then we're done with that part. And now we are done with the round beam. If there's anything that you don't understand, please just say on the comment section. Now let's look at the formwork. This formwork that we are going to be looking at is formwork for the round beam. So formwork for the round beam, the thing that you do is you have to add this section here, this 600 plus that 280 plus that 400, and then when you get the total of that, you multiply it by the center line, right? So the formwork is 600. Remember, this 600 plus 280 plus 400 is going to give us that 1280, and then we multiply by the center line. That's how you book that, and then allow formwork to the round beam. Now let's look at the slab. The slab, guys, is also measured in cubic meters. The slab is the easiest thing that you can book, because the slab, it's simply, remember, this is the section of the slab, right? This whole area is covered by the slab. So what do we do is that 15,000 there, right, multiply by the 7,000, multiply by the thickness of the slab. Where do you get the thickness of the slab? It's written here, is 200. It's 200. That's the thickness of the slab. So now when you come here, when you book it, it's 15.7 by 7 by 0.2, and then allow 20 MPa to slab. And then the last thing that I'm going to be looking at is the formwork to the slab. So what is the formwork to the slab? Let's look at the length. Remember, where are you going to be putting formwork? You're only going to be putting formwork inside there, inside there, inside there, inside there, inside there, inside there. You're not going to put formwork on top there, No, you're not. So if you look at that 15,000, right? If you look at that 15,000, and then if you deduct that 280, you deduct the 300, you deduct the 300, you deduct the 280, and then you will get the section where they will need you to put your formwork there. Same thing that I did here. So it's that 15,000, which was the length, minus the thickness of the inside walls and the outside walls, which is 280 walls. So you've got two of them, this one and this one. So 280 walls multiplied by 2, we get that 560, and then we also get 300 walls. 300, this is 300, this is 300, and then we get 600. If we deduct that, we get 13,840. And then we also have to look, we're looking at the length, right? If you look at the width, this is only the place that we need formwork. Here we're not gonna put formwork. So now what do you do is that 7,000 minus this wall and that wall. So that was 280, this one is 280, minus also this mid wall, which is 300. The same thing that I did here. If you're with me, 7,000, right? And then you deduct that 2 times 280, since you've got